This video is based on external growth for the AQA Business Studies Specification Unit 9, and the type of merger or acquisition that we're going to look at within this video is horizontal integration. So we're just going to focus on horizontal. In other videos I'll have a look at the other types of mergers and acquisitions. So when we think about horizontal integration, we just have to remember that this is the coming together of two companies that are operating in the exact same stage of the supply chain. So they might be selling different products, but they're in the exact same industry. One example of a horizontal merger is the one between Volkswagen and Porsche, where Volkswagen acquired Porsche. So as we can see from this article, Volkswagen stepped up its efforts to become the world's #1 car maker on Thursday by buying up the remaining parts of Porsche that it didn't already own. This acquisition actually took quite a while to do, but again, the reason for it is because Volkswagen wanted to increase that market share and build up the car brand. Another example, and this is slightly more recent, back in 2015, towards the end of 2015, is when Domino's bought the biggest German pizza chain, which is called Joey's Pizza, in an $86 million deal. Again, the reason why both of those examples are horizontal is because if you think about Domino's, they're buying Joey's Pizzas, they both, I suppose, make and sell and offer that pizza service. And the same goes for Volkswagen and Porsche in terms of car production and car sales. Just to give you a little bit more information about the acquisition, and I will go into this example later on as well when we look at the benefits and the drawbacks of such a horizontal merger. But Joey's Pizza, it had 212 stores across Germany with annual sales of €143 million. So obviously you can see why it was attractive to Domino's. It also gives you an explanation in this article about Germany, the world's 4th biggest pizza market. So it's a pizza market Domino's cannot really afford not to be in. So it says here the deal will increase the number of stores owned by Domino's to 1,870, really demonstrating the growth that Domino's will experience. Now, could Domino's experience that growth organically or internally? Probably not. So they've had to go for external. And the final sentence of this article snippet is the acquisition of the market-leading Joey's Pizza business provides immediate scale and marketing presence, which we can build from. And this really delves into the benefits and the advantages of such a merger as horizontal integration. That's what we're going to look at now. Now, the more obvious benefits of such a merger is the ability to achieve economies of scale. And when we talk about economies of scale, with this type of merger, they could possibly benefit from lots of different types. So if we have a look at this diagram here, I'll just explore some of the ways that they might be able to benefit from all these different types of economies of scale. So one example, if we think about purchasing economies of scale and buying in bulk, because the two firms, if we could think about Domino's and Joey Pizzas, or Volkswagen and Porsche, both of them have massively increased their bargaining power over suppliers. So in doing so, and being able to have the finances, the additional facilities for storage, the factory space, all of that goes into being able to order so much more resources, so much more stock, so much more raw materials, helping them to achieve this purchasing economies of scale, and meaning that they can increase output, but at the same time reduce their average unit cost. If we think about technical economies of scale, or even cheaper capital, or even efficient production, the reduction in logistic costs. Now these companies have merged, they've got access to one another's production or operations. So in doing so, they've not had to invest in further capital goods. They've already got the capital goods. And because these companies are big companies, especially in terms of Volkswagen and Porsche, they will already have sophisticated operations in place, so which just benefits both firms. And again, if you're looking at marketing economies of scale or reduction in promotion costs, by Domino's, using Domino's as an example, by using Joey's Pizzas, they've already got that presence in Germany. Now, for Domino's to enter Germany, they've had to carry out research, they've had to really increase their marketing funds in order to create that awareness and build that customer base. But now, because of the merger with Joey's Pizzas, they're already the biggest pizza company in Germany, they don't need to do that anymore. Another economies of scale that's not mentioned within this, which again most companies would achieve with a horizontal integration, especially with two major companies, like the examples that I've given you, is also managerial economies of scale and specialisation. If we think about the likes of Volkswagen and Porsche will have specialised staff, they'll have specialised managers who know how to, I mean, obviously Porsche is such a successful brand already, they will know how to manage the company and their ideas with the combination of another very well-known company such as Volkswagen, with again specialised staff, with specialised managers. Those added ideas, those added skills, it's only going to benefit both companies. Now, all these different types of economies of scale is because of these two companies merging and becoming one. Now, there's a really key technical term that you need to use when talking about mergers and acquisitions, and it's synergy. Now, synergy means that the coming together of two companies is much better for both companies combined than it would be originally on their own. So initially on their own, the benefits they may get will not be as much as the benefits that they will achieve if they are together. So that's what I mean by synergy. Now, there's different types of synergy, which again we'll explore, and we'll use advantages from the examples that we've already discussed. So when we're looking at synergy, one type of synergy that we could look at is the boost in revenue that both companies would achieve by merging as one than what they could have had if it was individual. And the example I'm going to use is Domino's, and this is a separate article but which relates to the merger. So initially when Domino's entered the German market, they found it really tough and they were struggling. So within this article it says that Domino's Pizzas is sure it can, but 2 years after launching a drive for explosive growth across Germany, the delivery firm accepts that expansion will take longer and be harder than first expected. And this is a quote: "It's been about resetting expectations, taking a little bit of medicine and getting on with growing it." And that's what Lance Batchelor, the Domino's chief executive, explains. He believes that armed with better knowledge of German worker-friendly pay structures, a menu tailored to local taste and understanding the culture of obviously the German market, and experienced franchisees to run its stores, the company can deliver in a market underserved by big chains. So obviously Domino's was really struggling, and I suppose they were organically growing, they were internally growing, they were trying to do it on their own and do it themselves, but because of the struggles and because of the added cost of such growth, they decided actually what we'll do instead is we'll externally grow, and because of their financial position and the success of Domino's globally, they were able to acquire Germany's biggest pizza chain. Now, because of this, they had everything in place. The expansion was there. They had the stores of Joey's Pizzas. They had the understanding of from Joey's Pizzas of the local taste. Because of the expertise of the managers of Joey's Pizzas, they could understand the pay structures that were involved. And in terms of experienced franchisees, well, they already had the stores of Joey's Pizzas. So they had everything that they were struggling with beforehand when they were trying to organically grow. That was all achieved because of this horizontal integration. Now, another type of synergy they can experience is cost-cutting synergy. And one example of this is the rationalisation that maybe a business is able to experience or act on in order to make the company much more efficient. So as I've put here, rationalisation is the process of eliminating parts of a business that are inefficient or unprofitable, and is a possible consequence of two or more firms merging. Now, this consequence within this aspect can be a positive consequence. If you think about the likes of Domino's and again Joey's Pizzas, or Volkswagen and Porsche, they've probably got, especially in terms of managers, they've probably got managerial responsibilities or managerial positions that are actually duplicated now, that are across both companies, and therefore both of them might not be needed. So what they're able to do is they're able to pick and select which one is the best manager, which is the member of staff, which is the supervisor, which is the head of functions that we can keep and maybe make redundant in terms of the other one. And therefore they're making them more efficient because they're choosing the best out of the two, and they're able to maybe cut back on the wage, on obviously the payroll of that worker, that additional, that duplicated role. And finally, the last benefit that we'll look at is it's very similar to economies of scale, but this time it's economies of scope. Now this can relate to cost cutting, but I think it also can relate to revenue generation, because in terms of economies of scope, it looks at the benefits associated with using the fixed assets of one firm to produce output for the other firm. So we can see here the difference between economies of scale and economies of scope is the reusing a resource from one business or country in additional business countries. So again, if we think about Volkswagen and Porsche, we can think about Domino's and Joey's Pizzas, they're able to use those the capital goods from that company to actually produce their own products. So for example, they might want to turn some of Joey's Pizzas into Domino's and use the machinery that's already there to produce the same pizzas. They might have, for example, Volkswagen and Porsche, they might already have factories within certain countries that they're really looking to operate in, and they can use the capital goods of that machinery that would be producing, for example, the Porsche to also produce the Volkswagen. They can even maybe have, I mean, this is a hypothetical merger, horizontal merger, but maybe the company they've acquired or merged with has capital goods that is much more sophisticated than the capital goods that they had, and therefore it allows them to spread out risk and maybe to produce alternative goods, increasing that range of products and therefore helping them to achieve risk-bearing economies of scale. So as you can see, there's lots of benefits that come with a horizontal merger. Now, some of the consequences, the disadvantages you could look at is in terms of, will the merger be actually allowed? Will competition policy actually allow it? Because if a merger, especially horizontal, proves that it's going to be uncompetitive, then that could be an issue. Another consequence, another disadvantage of such a merger is these two companies may actually initially find it very, very hard to work together. The corporate culture of both firms might be completely different, and in the past lots and lots of mergers have failed because of this, because they have been unable to work together. They've not been able to work together, and it's caused actually inefficiency. Obviously these companies you'd expect to research the cultures, research the management styles, research how the merger or acquisition would go, but sometimes it's underestimated, sometimes the research isn't carried out properly, and there's been companies, massive companies, that spent lots of money and it's turned out to be a failed merger.